Good morning. The time is now 10 o'clock and we are going to start our CRTPO Technical Coordinating Committee on September 7th, 2023. We're going to go around the room at the table, starting to my left with introductions. And please remember to turn on your mic when you speak and introduce yourself, and then turn off your mic when you're finished speaking. Sean, we'll start with you.
Marley Henning, Bicycle Focus Area. Heather Maloney, Town of Huntersville.
Will Washam, Town of Mooresville.
Bjorn Hansen, Union County.
Vaughn Hanson.
Aaron Tucker, Town of Cornelius.
Justin Russell, Town of Stallings. Dan Lever, Charlotte General Services.
Andrew Ventresca, Town of Trotman.
Travis Johnson, CRGPO.
Liz Babson, City of Charlotte.
Joyce Figueroa, Mecklenburg County Park and Recreation.
Irene Ivy, Mecklenburg County Public Health.
David McDonald with Cats.
Lisa Stywinter, City of Monroe.
Andy Bailey, NCDOT Transportation Planning.
Anil Panikkar, NCDOT Division 12.
James Kelly, Town of Waxhaw.
Travis Morgan, Town of Pineville.
Andrew Golden, Town of Davidson.
Megan Green, Mecklenburg County Air Quality.
Janice DeJanke, Town of Matthews.
Steve Fry, Town of Mint Hill.
And then quickly, we'll go around the room in our audience, starting to the left with Bob Cook.
CRTPO. CRTPO. Warren Cook, Turnpike Authority. Scott.
Matt Werner, HDR.
Judy Deller, CRTPO.
Xavier August, City of Statesville. Herman Calder, City of Statesville.
All right, thank you. And our first item is to adopt today's agenda. May I have a motion for that adoption? And a second? All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? That carries unanimously. Our next item is approval of the consent agenda. We have 4 items: approval of the August 3rd, 2023 TCC minutes, 2024, 2033 TIP amendments, FY 2024 UPWP amendment, and Union County Transportation FTA 5307 TIP amendment. May I have a motion for the adoption of the consent agenda? And a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? That also carries unanimously. Moving into our first item of business. We're going to hear from Andrew Ventresca on the CRTPO Discretionary Grants Program Policy Guide revisions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I hope all are doing well this morning. What we're looking for today is an action to recommend that the CARTPO board approve the revisions to the Discretionary Grants Program Policy Guide. Jennifer brought a pretty detailed presentation to this board last month, so I'm going to touch on this briefly as we do have quite a few informational items for today's agenda. Just a little bit about the policy guide. It's used to prioritize and program all discretionary funding. It was adopted by the CARTPO board in 2019, and there were some slight revisions in 2020. These revisions today were developed by the POC. We took a total of 7 meetings to do it. There was a collaborative effort with Mecklenburg County Health and Air Quality. And if approved, the shortfall recommendations will start with the 2023 fall call, which is currently open. So just be advised on that. Recommended revisions. The first one is maximum funding is calculated at 25% per project of available funding per mode. This will fluctuate per call because we don't know exactly how much we're going to get per year. But basically, the thing to remember here is that the most you can get is 25% per mode that's available. The second one is to add a contingency on construction cost estimates. We currently don't have one. This contingency recommendation is 10%. The third one is adding inflation on estimates. We will review the inflation rate each year as the economy will kind of dictate what we do. Currently for the 2024 year, the recommendation is 10%. We do want to cap shortfall awards, and this will start with the 2023 fall call. The cap is going to be no more than 100% of the original cost estimate of the project, up to $3 million. We do want to clarify the project readiness on funding requests. More advanced project phase funded requests will get higher points. The way the code currently reads is the highest phase that's been completed. Sometimes jurisdictions might do PE or right away and just apply for construction funding, and that PE and right away may not have been done yet. But we don't want to penalize that. We're recommending increasing safety points on highway projects from 10 to 15. What this will do with roadway projects is take the total points of basically the total scoring from 95 points to 100 points. It just makes it 100 just an even number. We do want to add crash reduction and equity scoring criteria to highway and intersection projects. With these, it will add 10 points. Again, that will equal a total of 100 for roadway projects. We did work with Mecklenburg County Health for these criteria, so we do want to give a thank you to Irene for helping us. We have a methodology for ranking applications for CMAQ and CRP funds. And what this basically says is CMAQ funds will be ranked by nitrous oxide reduction, where the carbon reduction funds will be ranked by carbon dioxide reduction. And that's basically just briefly going over what Jennifer presented last month. Again, we are looking for a recommendation to the CARTPO board to approve these amendments. And so with that, I'll open it up for any questions.
Thank you, Andrew. Are there any questions for Andrew at this time?
I guess can you go back to the first one again? So, I mean, it's probably been a long time since this happened, but if we had less than 4 projects in a signal mode, obviously we're not going to want to limit a project at 25% and money go to another mode, right?
That's right.
Okay.
And again, you know, this is a policy guideline. We do have the right to kind of like look at it based on what we get that year and the amount of funding.
Any further questions?
Madam Chair, I got a question. Andrew, actually on that first slide that we were just on, number 2, number 4, the additional contingency and the inflation, is that built into the Form 1 that we fill out? You know, because that'll kind of change.
Yes, it's my understanding Jennifer has revised the forms where this is now built in.
Okay, yeah, because we'll, officially adopt with our council the local match for the project. So just want to make sure that's all on the front end.
And I believe she had updated it and posted to the website about a week ago.
Okay. Thank you.
Any further questions? All right, hearing silence. May I have a motion to recommend that the CRTPO board approve the revisions to the discretionary grants program policy guide? Said that. In a second.
Second.
Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Andrew, and thanks again to the team. I know you guys do a tremendous amount of work outside of these meetings to get us to the point where we can make a recommendation. All right, next we're going to hear from Bob Cook.
Good morning.
Morning.
I have 2 presentations today. First one is about the planning area boundary, guaranteed probably to be the most bureaucratic issues you'll deal with all week. And I know we deal with bureaucracy quite a bit, but these are probably will take the cake. So with the planning area boundaries, just want to talk a little bit about background, provide our staff recommendation and talk about the future action that will have to be taken. We're not requesting any action today on either item. And then, of course, time for questions. So here's the bureaucracy. There are a lot of regulations that govern what MPOs do, and they're all contained within the Code of Federal Regulations identified there in that first bullet point. And in that second point, that's where we get to the heart of this boundary discussion today. And we are required to review our planning area boundaries after each census to determine if those boundaries still meet the minimum requirements for related to new urban areas or updated urban areas. And then we have to adjust them if the need arises based upon urban area changes. So what we'll have to eventually do, perhaps next month, is to adopt a resolution, or the board will adopt a resolution to confirm the existing boundary. And to get into a little bit more background with MPOs and boundaries is that under federal law and regulation, MPO boundaries have to include the entirety of the census designated urban area. If you're going to establish a boundary for your MPO, you at least have to include that. That is the bare minimum. And as you might recall from earlier this year, after the 2020 census urban area information was finally released, one of the surprising things that came out of that was that the Charlotte urban area contracted by 109 square miles. It was a pretty substantial reduction in size. And that was related to not because growth is slowing or we're in a no growth area. That's hardly the case. It's just because of how the Census Bureau changed its criteria for establishing urban areas. And so the relevant changes that went into that 109 square mile contraction were in Northern Iredell County and in Union County, where both Statesville and Marshville are no longer within the Charlotte urban area. And in Western Mecklenburg County, there was an area assigned now to the Gastonia urban area. That was pretty much the area around the Whitewater Center. And then in Eastern Mecklenburg County, there were some areas assigned to the Concord area, urban area, which previously we had gone into Cabarrus County with the Charlotte urban area. So a lot of changes. And then one thing I don't mention here is that the urban area also contracted significantly in South Carolina. So on the left is the 2010 urban area in purple. And you can see extending all the way up to Statesville, out to Marshville, down there on the lower right of that map. And then by contrast, you can see the 2020 urban area in green, and then the purple on the fringes is the 2010 urban area by comparison. So fairly substantial changes to the Charlotte urban area. And then the main issue today, of course, is our planning area boundary. And that is shown on the screen in that heavier blue line, taking in all of Iredell County, all of Mecklenburg County, of course, and much of Union County, not all, but much of Union County, certainly the urban portion of Union County. We have taken a look at all the issues associated with this. We've reviewed the current boundary, and our recommendation is that it should remain unchanged. There are two fundamental reasons for that. One is that we are meeting that statutory minimum that we include the entirety of the Charlotte urban area within the boundary. That is not changing. That the fact that we are taking in the entirety of the urban area, that is. And then both Statesville and Marshville have both elected to remain active members of CRTPO, despite the fact that they're no longer in the Charlotte urban area. And so for those two reasons, we believe that the current boundary should remain as is. One thing I don't mention here, it's not a changing situation, is that we are hemmed in on those sides by existing MPOs. So that's another reason why there's no need for us to expand, or there's no real possibility of us expanding. So the future action that we will have to take as an organization, the TCC will have to make a recommendation to the board, of course, on adopting a resolution to confirm the current planning area boundary. And I'm anticipating that this won't be a controversial issue, but you may disabuse me of that in a moment, but I'm not expecting it to be a controversial issue. So I expect we could put it on the consent agenda for the TCC next month. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. Hmm?
Do you mind going back to the map, comparing the two? And I was just wondering what might account for, we lost a lot of area in York County, but have like a new little part up in the northwest.
It is inexplicable because suddenly urban areas are respecting political boundaries, and they never did in the past. And it is obvious it's respecting a political boundary.
But not the entire York County. boundary.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Very odd.
Okay.
Any further questions? All right, thank you. Bob,
Good. So we'll bring this back as a consent item unless the board has serious problems later on next month
okay, thank
or
you.
later on this month. Go right ahead.
All right.
Next one.
Next will, oh, I've looked, wrong one. Transfer planning responsibilities, memorandum of agreement.
Now we get super bureaucratic. So again, a little bit of background, talk about the future action. We'll talk about our recommendation as well, status and schedule, because this item is still in flux, and then happy to answer any questions. And in your agenda packet, I believe you had a draft agreement or an example of a draft agreement with the Rock Hill Fort Mill Area Transportation Study, the MPO for the Rock Hill urban area. That will, by the way, will look rather similar to the agreements with the Gaston, Cleveland, Lincoln MPO and the Cabarrus, Rowan MPO. There will be some differences perhaps, but generally speaking, they'll look the same. So again, with background, same thing, same code of federal regulations that we're dealing with. In this case, it's a slightly different section. And it talks about this particular issue. We're part of an urban area that is served by one MPO. When it extends into the metropolitan planning area or over into that overlaps the boundary of another MPO, we have to establish these agreements to make sure that the transportation planning requirements associated with urban areas are fully accounted for, and the transportation planning process is taking place across all those urban areas. So ultimately, what we're going to be doing is executing agreements between CRTPO and these adjacent MPOs to ensure that that happens. So there are 4 situations in this time around where the necessitating these agreements. Charlotte urban area, as was seen on the previous map, extends into the RFATS planning area. Used to extend much more substantially. Now it's just a relatively small portion of York County across the Buster Boyd Bridge. The Charlotte urban area also extends into the Gaston, Cleveland, Lincoln MPO planning area around Mountain Island Lake, jumping over Highway 16, the Highway 16 bridge. And then the Gastonia urban area now extends into Mecklenburg County, roughly in the area around the Whitewater Center, as I think I mentioned previously. And then on the east side of Mecklenburg County, there are some areas where the Concord urban area extends into Mecklenburg County. And you can see it a little bit better there. This very nice map prepared by Curtis. You can see our planning area in that light blue in the middle, with the darker blue being the Charlotte urban area. Then to our west is the Gastonia urban area in the darker brown, and then that tannish color is their planning area boundary. Concord to the north and west, north and east, that lighter shade of that kind of tannish color, and then the red is the Concord urban area, and then same thing down to the south with Rock Hill. So you can see some of those overlaps there in the yellow. So not huge areas, but still some overlaps into different planning areas. The overlap into Gastonia, into Gaston County is rather small to see up there on Highway 16. It's a pretty small geographic area. Same thing with the Concord overlaps into Mecklenburg County. So again, we do have to execute these agreements with the neighboring MPOs. We're going to be transferring planning area responsibilities for parts of the Charlotte urban area going into the other MPOs, and then vice versa. And this is consistent with past the follow-up to past censuses. We probably, I know we did these following the 2010 census, and prior to my time, I know they existed after the 2000 census as well, perhaps after the 1990 census. So in terms of status and what our schedule is looking like on this, we did provide the draft template to the city attorney's office, and they provided some input on that. The transit text is being reviewed by Jarrell and by David. And I know, David, you have some emails to me that I have to look at. So we're working on the transit language as well. Andy was kind enough to get the air quality text reviewed by another member of his staff, who indicated that text seemed adequate. And so we're currently working with the MPOs to prepare these agreements or to update the agreements. We've had some conversations with RFATs in South Carolina, a little bit with Concord as well. So they're in progress. And then we have the craft meeting coming up later on this month, the Charlotte Regional Alliance for Transportation, where all the MPOs and the RPOs get together. So this will be an agenda item at that meeting. So for further discussion. So with all that being said, the final resolution on this is to be determined, and it may depend upon how we are able to work with each individual MPO. So we may come back to this group in October with one MPO's agreement. Maybe it's November with another. I'd like to do it all at once if possible. That would be my preference, but it's still to be determined at this stage. So with that, any questions?
Any questions for Bob? Right, thank you.
I get the fun assignments anymore. Thank you.
All right, next we'll hear from Brian, and he'll provide us an update on the CRTPO strategic plan implementation.
Good morning, and I am going to move us on from some of this bureaucratic stuff. So the strategic plan has largely been a behind the scenes effort to this point, and we just wanted to take some time to shed some light on the good work that CRTPO staff has been doing over the past year. So the strategic plan was adopted by the CRTPO board in November of 2021. Our mission statement is that the CRTPO provides leadership and collaboration with our member communities and partners in developing our region's transportation system. And our vision is a connected and equitable transportation system that provides mobility choices for the region. So these were the 6 goals identified in the strategic plan. Goal 1, leadership. Goal 2 is communication. Goal 3 is collaboration. Goal 4 is membership. Goal 5 is operations, and goal 6 is funding. We initially started with implementation efforts on goal 6 to expand regional transportation funding. In the past year, we've also worked on goal 1, leadership, and leading on regional mobility issues. And I will sort of get into some of the stuff that we've done in those efforts. So each goal has several strategies. For goal 1, strategy A was providing ongoing education about CRTPO to our members and partners through engagement and discussion. We largely do this through our education session programming. Last year and this year, we had presentations on the discretionary grant program. Last year was to the CRTPO board, and this year was to transportation staff. In May, we heard from the Metrolina regional model. And then in October, we'll be hearing from Centralina on some of their transportation initiatives. There was also a training put on by Jennifer Stafford in coordination with NCDOT back in May about sort of project funding and management. Strategy B was about identifying resource needs to pursue additional multimodal planning approaches and studies. Staff is developing a program we're calling the Regional Transportation Planning Program. We've done interviews with several peer MPOs from Atlanta, from Broward, Florida, the capital area MPO back up in Raleigh, and GCL MPO to see what they do and learn from them. And we've also met with some of our member jurisdiction staffs to hear about what they might need. Strategy D was about engaging with the North Carolina Association of MPOs, as well as the National Association of MPOs, to promote our initiatives and learn from our peers. between the 2022 AMPO National Conference, the 2022 NACAMPO Conference, and the 2023 NACAMPO Conference. CRTPO staff conducted 13 presentations covering topics such as our public involvement database, the Beyond 77 corridor study, Connect Beyond, as well as hybrid meetings and the strategic plan itself. Our Deputy Director, Neil Burke, is also the NACAMPO Vice President and has been since 2019. For Goal 6, expanding regional transportation funding, Strategy A is about championing efforts to support Connect Beyond and the Beyond 77 initiatives. The Beyond 77 Task Force has been working for some time. Just 2 weeks ago, we held meetings with implementers and portions of those meetings focused on alternative fundings strategies. And CRTPO staff also supports the Connect Beyond Advancing the Plan Committee in their efforts. Strategy B is about educating members on how to identify, pursue, and write grants. Back in May, we did a survey of transportation staff to try to learn what some of your needs and interests were. We've provided some presentations on the Infrastructure Investment in Jobs Act, IIJA, or the BIL bill, as it's sometimes called. We also conducted a presentation to the Lake Norman Transportation Commission about funding opportunities. Staff is currently assembling a database of grant opportunities, primarily through IIJA, but also other opportunities that will eventually be hosted on a dedicated webpage on the CRTPO website. We also plan to provide templates and other supporting documentation for you to use in applying for grants. And we are coordinating with Centralina to offer classes on grant writing and grant management. Strategy D is about partnering with Centralina and regional MPOs to identify funding opportunities. Back in May, we had our joint MPO roundtable with the Gaston Cleveland Lincoln MPO, which focused on alternative funding strategies. Our next steps, we are obviously going to continue implementation of goals 1 and 6, and we anticipate sort of initiating the implementation of goal 5 with earnest in fall. And I will stop there and take any questions.
Any questions for Brian? All right, thank you. Next, we'll hear from Jason Wager with Centralina Regional Council, and he's going to provide us with an update on Connect Beyond. Welcome, Jason.
Thank you. Thanks for giving us a moment just to loop back to the TCC here and share a little bit about what's going on with Connect Beyond. As you see in the packets, CRTPO, along with all the other MPOs in the region, heard from, took whatever action was appropriate in those respective areas in the fall of 21 to accept, adopt, endorse the Connect Beyond plan. And so wanted to just take a moment today to quickly refresh what that was all about for those that need that refresher, but mostly talk about implementation. So I know most of you in the room, but my name is Jason Wager. I'm the Regional Planning Director, Centralina Regional Council. Was the Connect Beyond project manager during the planning phase. And you'll see several items today that now are being managed by several folks on our team in the planning department. So a lot of good work going on, all kinds of things I think that anyone from rural to suburban to urban areas in the region will be able to get involved with and take advantage of. So thanks again for the chance to share these updates. I think first of all, we just want to be reminded of why mobility. And so I would definitely point folks, if you are needing materials or some information as you might be talking to folks back at home, even more generally, but certainly about Connect Beyond, we have an entire page on the connect-beyond.com website that goes into this very topic. But all these things I don't think come as any surprise to those of you in this room. We're talking about accessing jobs, healthcare, education opportunities, movement of goods and people, very important, and ultimately remaining economically competitive in our region. And going back to the first and only in-person meeting of the Connect Beyond planning phase of work is this picture taken at the Charlotte Douglas Airport. And flash forward about 18 months, and we had in the fall of 21 a completed regional mobility vision, first ever for our region, really focusing on public transit and transportation, but also other modes and other realities that must play into us being successful. So you can see these major moves that were created and put forth as a part of that plan. And I kind of like how this graphic worked out, because those investments in strategic mobility corridors, the bigger investments that we all read about in the news and see in the news, those come after lots of other activities, things that we all do locally through our planning work to set ourselves up to be able to do those investments. So truly a broad brush look at mobility with over 120 recommendations, short-term, long-term. Various folks can take the lead. And again, at the connect-beyond.com website, all the recommendations can be accessed and filtered through a tool on the site. So there really is something there, we believe, for everyone. A big effort that's an early win, we think, for the region is a truly regional transportation demand management program. This is in the planning stages right now. You'll start, I'll share a little bit more in a minute, but you'll see more coming out and opportunities to participate. And we'll talk about what is TDM a bit more as well. But some of the high points, really identifying best practices from around the country, doing some analysis, looking at where those hot spots for mobility are around the region, and then that stakeholder engagement, including transportation planning organization staff meeting later this month, where we'll pull everyone together and get their specific inputs. Where it's going, though, is ultimately to put together a TDM program, again, across the greater Central Liner region, which is the 9-county area here, as well as Cleveland County, so a 10th county being part of GCL MPO. And this is really about influencing everyday travel choices, can be tailored to a variety of settings and contexts. And we've found that this could really be an opportunity to have some impacts in a lot of different areas. I really like this slide because it kind of breaks it down a little bit more clearly. You're getting into options and tools moving towards outcomes, and you can see some of those examples. And the other thing that I really appreciate about this program is I believe there's something, like I said earlier, in it for everyone. One big item or theme that I see across all, whether it's rural, suburban, or urban context, is that education piece. This can bring education and information about what's available, what choices are available, how to access those. That needs to happen across all situations. And ultimately is about improving our economic competitiveness, getting people around, accessing those means and modes. Some of the activities now, as we go through the planning phase, are laid out here. Ultimately, moving towards a program that is launched and ready to go by next summer. It will be starting up. It won't be, absolutely the final fully baked program, but we will be moving from planning to having an initiative that we think will, in that first year, get its legs under it, and then be something that others from around the region can participate, whether you're a transit provider and you want to be involved, or making sure that information that is created, those materials, can be used locally and help with getting the information out about mobility options. Another changing tracks a little bit, another major initiative we're calling Seamless Connections. It's starting small, a couple of pilot projects in partnership and coordination with CATS. CATS has just put together a concept grant and submitted that to NCDOT, but will really be about a couple of those often are referred to as easy wins, but as we all know, when we hear that usually there's a little bit more work to get those things done. But this is about fair integration and shared scheduling and route planning opportunities. We'll start, as this says, with pilot projects, so not necessarily all agencies everywhere, but for instance, we'll look with between CATS and Ryder. They have some interactions through the JW Clay station at the end of the Blue Line. How can some of those connections be more seamless for those folks? And we'll start with a couple of these smaller activities, but we hope that these will show us, what works and what doesn't, and then we bring that to the rest of the region. Again, not small items, but important and a little bit more accessible to getting done sooner than later because of our ability to work at a staff level administratively. Brian mentioned just a moment ago, the Advancing the Plan Committee. So this is the space and place where we are able to talk a bit more about those big topics: funding, governance. How do we take things from administrative a little bit further and be sure that we're coordinated and collaborating? So Advancing the Plan Committee is meeting throughout the year, 6 total meetings. I will not say that every last jurisdiction is represented. It's about 20 folks, but we definitely made sure that folks from around the various MPOs, all the counties, in some way, shape, or form were represented and able to provide their perspectives. And you can see some of the activities that we have going on right now. And also later this week, tomorrow, we have a peer regions roundtable where we'll hear from a couple folks, and then a committee meeting coming up. A little bit more, excuse me, I thought I had one other slide. So I think the key here, though, is that we really want to see this group by their November meeting have that jumping off point. What's next? Where are we headed in terms of a model that may work for us in the near term? Maybe that model evolves in the long term, but where can we all land in terms of making sure that transit functions are still able to play out? For instance, autonomy, local autonomy and controls remains very important. We want to make sure that's retained. What are those areas, though, that cross jurisdictions that we would see some value in? So is there maybe some shared marketing and branding and that kind of thing? So that's exactly the conversations they're having. And we hope to have some really clear forward-looking goals coming out of our November meeting. Another update, and again, on the website, there is an entire section that just talks about implementation activities. And if anyone has transportation, public transportation success stories, we'd love to highlight those and put those here as well. One thing's for sure, that it's going to take a lot of local efforts combined with those broad brush regional cross-jurisdictional efforts to come together for us to really be successful. This is something that is recently been produced. So if you're getting questions locally, and I see some folks in the room that are well aware of this and participate regularly in the mobility managers meetings that we hold quarterly, this is a great resource to tap into. And then finally, some grant updates. A couple of proposals that we've been working on to help continue to fund different initiatives. First, on the left, you see the Regional Infrastructure Accelerator Grant. It's really about getting those big projects ready for federal funding and building capacity in our region to go after these funds. The key elements include, in addition to that accelerator function, 3 main service lines. You can see what those are here. And we hope to hear real soon about whether we receive the full request or a portion thereof. But if we have this funding, what can we move forward in this regard? And Also, we're excited to be able to announce we have received notification of the EPA Climate and Pollution Reduction Grant that's been awarded. We just heard in mid-August. And just getting going, lots to do on this. Some folks again in the room have been around the table helping us form some of the key components. I think the takeaway for this group, this thing will run about 4 years, the planning piece of it. But we expect to be announced as early as this month, competitive grants that go alongside and in parallel with this planning. So in other words, it won't be 4 years from now, it'll be pretty soon that communities around this region can start looking at what do we want to do that maybe support climate, but perhaps the word climate is never used in your proposal. It could be something that you're trying to do around transportation, for example. We expect that to be a big focus for our region. So more to come, but we really believe that this effort will set up our communities throughout the region to go after those competitive dollars. I believe the funding available is over 4 billion ultimately over time across the country. So it's not a small amount of money. And we think that this will be a good thing for us locally to be going after. So we will go move forward with the preliminary climate action plan by March 1st. It does not have to cover everything. And then we'll go and have a final comprehensive plan in 2 years and then go from there. So two parallel things, the planning and then the competitive awards. And also, I think Brian mentioned some upcoming really learning opportunities that we hope to pull together for the region there at the bottom. So thanks, appreciate the chance to share. I think a lot of times we hear about these big plans and then, you know, where'd those go, what's happening? These are some of the things that are happening. I hope you took away from this that there will be some real tangible ways for your communities to get involved in the near future. So any questions? Yes.
The advancing the plan meetings, are those open to the public or?
They are public meetings. I think right now it's been fairly targeted around those committee members. It's a smaller space, so it gets pretty crowded in the conference room. But certainly, if folks are interested in knowing more, we can get you more information how to participate. Yeah.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, Jason. Next, we'll hear from Jarrell Leonard, who's going to give us an update on the 2023 FTA Section 5307 Annual Report.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Jarrell Leonard with CRTPO, Transit Planner. So the background and purpose of this report is focused on the Section 5307 program, which is a planning, engineering, design, and evaluation program. Also, it provides capital investments, which includes bus replacement, repairs, also facilities, and also ADA requirements tied to paratransit. But it also allows operating assistance tied to transit providers who fall within urbanized areas, such as in our case, Charlotte urbanized area, for eligible expenses if you have less than 100 buses. And pretty much all recipients except CATs are eligible within the Charlotte urban area. In July 2021, there was a new 5307 formula that was composed, and it was adopted by the TCC as well as the CRTPO board to distribute the 5307 funds within the Charlotte urban area. And it was recommended after the action of the Transit Education Initiative Task Force, which pretty much looked at how this program worked and to be able to disperse the funds in a fair and equitable fashion. Paragraph 8 of the memorandum understanding that the TEI generated and adopted and helped the TCC as well as the CRTPO board adopt specifies that every year by September 1, annual report has to show activities that were utilizing or done with the 5307 funds by the 5307 recipients. I'm going to call up the first agency, Union County Transportation.
Good morning. I'm Teresa Torres with Union County Transportation Director. So as you can see from this chart, the last time we were able to apply for 5307 funds was for the federal fiscal year 20. The reason for this is that the transit area agencies in the area had to apply to the FTA to become direct recipients. So that has held us from being able to apply for the funds. So right now, we have over $4 million in unobligated dollars. Union County received their welcome letter to the FTA in May, which now allows us to be direct recipients. So we will start applying for our grants. For our FY 2020 dollars, we do have a little bit of money left over. It's $131,000 that we are spending on office furniture because we just moved. So that will be zeroed out. For 2021, we will apply for these dollars. It says October, all depends. The tip is on the agenda today for those monies. So whenever we get the STIP done, we'll be able to apply for that. And then we also have our ARP and Carissa money that we will also apply for in October. For the 2023 fiscal year money, this is where our breakdown will be. We will have almost $600,000 in operating funds, almost $13,000 in security, and then $6,000 in capital. We will ask for a period of performance on that to be requested because obviously we're not going to be able to spend that money right now. Any questions? Thank you.
All right, the next operator I'm going to request to come up is Mecklenburg County Transportation, MTS.
Hi, I'm Richard Buchanan with Mecklenburg County Transportation System, and I'm the senior manager. What happened to it? Sorry about that. In our federal fiscal year 2022 5307 apportionment, that money is divided between capital assistance, where there's a little over 1.5 million. And then our safety and security is 15,593. And unfortunately, Mecklenburg County Transportation System did just in the last fiscal year get over 100 fleet vehicles in our fleet by counting our vendors. So we're no longer able to use that for the operating assistance. We have obligated our funds. We have not have executed agreements yet. 2021, our ARP funds, our application is under review, little over 3.8 million. The Carissa dollars, 2021, a little $982,163. That application is under FTA review. Our 2020 5307 dollars, or a little over $1.2 million, that is approved and executed. 2021 is 1.559281. That application is under FTA review. In the federal fiscal year 2023, we have a little over $1.7 million, and that grant is application is currently under development. For federal fiscal year 2023, we'll be using our monies for capital assistance at 1.675848, and safety and security are $29,850. And we'll be using this to purchase replacement vehicles for our fleet, which is aging, capital cost of third-party contracting for trips provided by our vendors, and also safety and security related expenses. Does anyone have any questions? Thank you.
So moments ago, I was notified by a peer transportation provider that Iredell County is having staff shortage issues, so they will not be able to attend the meeting, but hopefully they will be able to attend the CRTPO board meeting. But due to their staff shortage and their last minute notification via their peer, they won't be able to attend this morning. And it is, and their report is included in the presentation. And if you have any questions, you please contact Brad Johnson, who is the director of Iredell County. Charlotte Area Transit System.
Good morning, Chairwoman Babson, committee members. My name is Chad Howell, Chief Financial Officer for Charlotte Water. Just briefly touch on what our prior federal funding awards were, our most recent federal funding awards, and then broadly cover some of the areas that where we're focusing our money. In FY22, we received 22.5 million, which is going to be very similar to what we received in 23, and pretty much receive roughly every year about that amount through FY29 through 21. Through the total COVID, ARPA, CRISA, and CARES money, we've received approximately $190 million, kind of broken into these categories. I'll touch on that again in a minute. All prior year funds have been obligated. We've worked very hard to ensure that that has occurred. FY23 award, basically again, approximately $22.8 million broken into these categories. Briefly, our budget priorities for this year and FY23 have been prioritize maintenance and asset preservation, safety and security, and then valuing employees. Prioritizing maintenance and asset preservation and safety and security we've utilized these funds for that. We're in the midst of turning over our bus fleet. Between last year and this coming year, we will have purchased approximately, or plan to purchase approximately 60 buses. Actually, we will almost completely turn over our STS fleet. Now, we're utilizing these funds as well as local dollars as well to do that. On the safety and security perspective, again, we're looking at adding cameras and other safety improvements throughout the line for equipment, ADA bus stop improvements, LED lighting upgrades, other various technology upgrades, non-revenue vehicles. These are our support vehicles. We also work to continue to churn that fleet and keep it up to standards so that our staff can best work on our system. And then operation and maintenance. Again, we're investing a lot of this money to bring our fleet up to speed. That's both our bus, LRV, streetcars, and our facilities as well. All of those primary categories, we're working very hard to bring all of those up to standard. Questions?
Any questions for Chad? And just to clarify, Chad was recently promoted to the CFO in CATS and came to us from Charlotte Water. When you introduced.
Did I introduce myself to
Yes,
Charlotte
you
Water? Don't tell anybody that. Yes, I was the CFO for Charlotte Water for 10 years before I came to CATS, and I'm happy to be with CATS.
That's okay. I'll always work for CDOT, so I understand.
Yes, ma'am, you understand.
Thank you. Any questions for Chad? All right, Jarrell.
So in the case of the city of Rock Hill, who does work for the Rock Hill Fort Mill Transportation Study, which covers the South Carolina portion of our urban area, we received correspondence on August 24th in lieu of a presentation. And since they're a separate MPO, they said they were sending this correspondence. I will be sending this out to TCC members after this meeting, and it specifies their usage of the 2017 through 22 federal fiscal year funds, as well as their CARES and ARP relief funds. If you have any questions, I will include that email address for David Hooper, who is the RFAT's contact person. Thank you. Any questions?
All right. Any further questions for Jarrell? Thank you.
Thank you.
And next we'll hear from Judy Dellert O'Keefe. She's going to provide us an update on the FY 2023 CRTPO Public Engagement Summary.
I need a box.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning, everyone. I'm Judy Dellert, our Public Information Officer with CRTPO. So just a quick update on some of the work we did last fiscal year. And then, going over some of the initiatives that we're working on for this fiscal year. So there's all of us. Hopefully, all of us. We do have a team of 11 right now. We have 2 more people that are going to be coming on board in September. And we're kind of always here to serve you. If you ever need anything, give us a call or email us. Some of our highlights from last year, several of you attended our Mobility for the Future Appreciation Celebration, where we recognized several projects that had been completed, planning studies done, projects moving forward, things like that. We also resumed our in-person meetings completely for both TCC and the board last year. We do continue to offer remote updates. There are some organizations that still prefer just to have a quick Zoom meeting, or some neighborhoods where it's easier to join that way. That also helps us because we're able to reach more people that way, since, we can't all be going to, can't go to 3 places in one night, but you could do 2 or 3 Zoom meetings in one night if you had to. So as you heard in Brian's presentation, we were represented at the state and national conferences again this year, and we continue to increase our social media presence. So our annual report will be coming out soon. We do hope to have that available and online for our September board meeting, so in about 2 weeks. And then this other slide shows a quick snippet of some of our numbers. We had good outreach again last year. The 25 education sessions, that includes ones that where we present to the board, TCC, or transportation staff, and also when we do the jurisdiction 101 meetings with some of your different town halls and councils. 16 different community engagement events. The live stream videos, that's primarily TCC and board meetings, but we did have some others that we streamed live last year as well. Lots of press releases going out last year to highlight some of our things, like when we award discretionary projects twice a year, we publish that so that the community knows what jurisdictions are receiving funds and how that's being spent. So, and we do have a quarterly newsletter, and if you guys don't receive that, please go online and sign up for that. So some of the member benefits, I feel like I need to go sooner because I'm repeating everybody else. We did the discretionary grants program workshop and education sessions, several of the CRTPO 101 presentations, and also something we just started this past year is meeting quarterly with all of your member jurisdictions, PIOs, so we can see how we can support each other and share projects and initiatives that all of us are doing across the whole Tri-County area. And so here's just an example of our task force from Beyond 77 working together. We've had several meetings, I think probably more in person than we had remote, and just a lot of work happening through that. And so next year, yep, okay, sorry. Thought I had my wrong date up there. Next year, some of our public involvement initiatives is we will be holding the CRTPO orientation in January. Working on the prioritization list, the P7.0. We're going to be tracking performance measures in the public involvement plan better than we have in the past. I don't know if you remember, but you all approved the public involvement plan early this year. And so we have updated our performance measures in that we're going to track. We will continue to do the CRTPO 101 presentations for member jurisdictions, and we'll be having the 2055 MTP kickoff within this fiscal year as well. So lots of engagement activity going on. And then some of our plans and project initiatives, the strategic plan implementation, of course, will continue. We're in the process of doing the congestion management process update. The SEAM advancement study is currently underway. The transit providers work group creation, we actually have our kickoff for that next week. And we're working on developing a coalition for Beyond 77 and a process for program implementation. Of course, working on the 2026 2035 tip development. And again, the MTP kickoff will be next year, not just the public engagement portion, but really getting into the scenario planning and all the other steps that happen with updating the MTP. And this is you all. Since we came back to person, just wanted to show you off a little bit and find out if there's any ways that you feel like we can better support you or help out. Just let us know. And that is it. Any questions?
Thank you, Judy. Any questions? All right, thank you. That brings us to the last item on our agenda. As always, you have Division 10 and 12 construction updates included in your packet. And we've got those folks here if anybody has any questions for them. Alex, welcome. Glad you made it. You have some updates for us.
Thank you. Alex Rotenberry, NCDOT Integrated Mobility Division. Just a couple of updates. So we recently had our statewide webinar. We do those quarterly. I hope that many of you were able to attend. If not, I often use that for my notes for at least a month or two afterwards, because it does a really good job of talking about the different projects that not just our regional planning team, of which I'm a member, but also our other branches within IMD also. So a really interesting resource and a lot of different things being worked on. Sometimes I discover those for the first time on these webinars myself. So a couple of things that I did want to mention is that we announced the award of the micro transit feasibility studies, which was something that I know I pitched often through various TCC meetings here and other places. And we announced the awards there. Sadly, none in this area, but hope that this may be a reoccurring grant opportunity. So if that is the case, I'll make sure to make sure that folks know about that. We also are working on zero emission vehicle transition plans. Those are for transit agencies that are at least electric curious and wanted to potentially move their fleets over to electric buses or other kinds of low or no emission buses. And so we're kicking off a number of pilots this year, Buncombe, Wilson County, Johnston County, and Duplin County. Hope I said that right. I'm not from North Carolina. And so those will be kicking off and going through this year, and hopefully we'll be offering that as well. So if your transit agencies have any particular interest in that, certainly they can reach out to Integrated Mobility Division and we'll see what we can do. We did announce also our multimodal planning grants. I was very sad to discover that nowhere in my region had been awarded one. So I will remind folks that we do these standalone bicycle or pedestrian plans or a joint bike ped plan that communities can apply for. Those typically, we typically open the call for those annually, and it's typically in the winter time. So sometime between, I would guess, January and March, I'll be back here hopefully and be able to tell you all about that, and happy to answer questions about that. But so I'll be working with communities throughout the state, but none in my region. And then finally, we are kicking off our statewide locally coordinated plan update. That's really important for a lot of nonprofits and smaller transit agencies that apply for 5310 funds, which is for disabled and elderly. So those don't necessarily have to be a transit agency that applies for those. We try to do a statewide plan in order to kind of cover the whole state, so that instead of having each MPO, which is something I did back in Missouri, we'd have to come up with our own individual plans. We have a statewide one that kind of covers and blankets the whole state. So then they can apply for those 5310 funds. They're not allowed if you don't have a plan. And so we're doing that kickoff. It's a statewide initiative. And so we've got virtual public meetings that will start on the 7th, which is tomorrow. What is today? On the 7th at 4, the 13th, we have 2 at 10 and 6. It's the same presentation. So you can attend any of those and get the same information. And this plan will probably take us into 2024 to complete. So we're working with some consultants and we'll be doing an extensive amount of public outreach in order to do this. And that will include, non-governmental partners as well. As I mentioned, that nonprofits, lots of charities and things like that often apply for these funds for ADA accessible buses for their own programs and things like that. So I do encourage you all to participate in those. I'll be sending Travis some of that information so that he can send that out. So if you're interested in participating in some form or fashion, I highly encourage it. And those are all my updates. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Yes.
I
Go
just
ahead.
real quick, sorry, I don't get to attend as much as I'd like to. Number one, I'm trying to hire a replacement for Dominique, and so I'm showing up for this, and that is in the process. So hopefully I might be able to share some good news in a month or two. And really quickly, I wanted to talk about Bob, adoption of what's called the Metropolitan Planning Area Boundary. And I'm glad you all are moving forward with that. Anything else we can do to assist coordination between the MPOs, as well as any adjustments that are needed to be made to the census boundaries, census urban area boundaries themselves, please let us know. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. And thanks to all of our NCDOT folks who travel from so far away to come and join us in person. All right, no additional updates from POC today. Bike and ped work group. Curtis, you have something?
Just one update from the work group itself. We have actually canceled our September meeting, so we will not meet this afternoon. We look forward to regrouping in October. One update on the project side. We are well underway on the SEAM advancement study, formerly the Mooresville to Charlotte Trail. So we've got a 2-day kickoff charrette with our steering committee next week. Special thanks to Will Washam and Gwen Cook, who've been championing this project for years and are continuing to guide it along. So we'll look forward to sharing some exciting updates with you all starting, well, the next few meetings. Now, that's all I have this morning. Any questions? All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Curtis. There are no additional updates. I'll pause for a minute if anybody has any questions, comments for the group, because I'm going to bring us to a close. As always, thank you for your time and participation in the important work that we do in planning for transportation in the region. That brings us to the conclusion of our meeting, and we have covered all items on our agenda. We are now adjourned.